Oh, sprightly joy, December cometh early for one and all. Look at the beautiful snow and shit. Merry Christmas!
Well, this is a good example of how this works, because fun fact, I've actually tried to script a preview for every season over the past year, and every time it's hamstrung my entire process. This season, however, actually has a couple of shows, one in particular, that I really want to get more people interested in if I can. It's like doing charity work, only useless and for nerds. Last time it was nothing but jokes, but here I'll try and get a bit more in-depth than before to actually lend credence to the word preview in the title. This does unfortunately mean I'll cover less shows, but hey, quality over quantity, or so they say, so hey, here we go. Oh no. I just finished doing a show by... Not again. I don't want to do another. Fresh off of one Trigger collaborative giant fighting robot show, we have another Trigger collaborative giant fighting robot show, only this time we're going full tokusatsu on a sort of Garo Vanishing Line or Gatchaman Crowds equivalent, and just like those two, this one is actually looking pretty alright. Really great attention to detail on show here. I especially noticed the quality of the sound mixing. They've really gone to pains to make the audio experience feel as compellingly immersive as the visual experience, which is also to a very high standard. I wasn't expecting anything out of this one, rather, given my time with Franks, I was more actively dreading it. But so far this has been a fairly enjoyable little romp, although, hey, why come... There's so much foot fetish stuff in this show. You think someone at Tsuburaya's got some kind of...
That's awful!
That said, I like how Tsuburaya said, please stop getting so horny over our characters, and then proceeded to fanservice the fuck out of them as the audience collectively yelled, it is my full intent to get as horny as physically possible over your character.
I fucking love
Gridman. The mystery is compelling, the characters are well designed and likable so far, except for the ones that are obviously meant to be not likable. We have a villain and a goal is constantly being hinted at. It is definitely a promising first half, and the presentation is top notch. It's almost like the writer isn't affiliated with Trigger at all. Oh, this is good. Oh,
That explains
oh really?
everything.
So, Goblin Slayer's been a bit of a hot topic, and like all rowdy, dirty boys, it's received some knee-jerk negative press, which has, of course, in turn caused some knee-jerk internet rage in response. So, it's about business as usual as the fucking sun rising for the internet, and it's died down quite a bit as the show has moved from its opening gambit to greener pastures, and by greener pastures I do of course mean High Elf Archer, but all the same, I was hoping I might be able to get away with not covering this one, and thus mankind's hubris once again proves their downfall. So yes, let's not dance around the elephant in the room. The first episode has a girl getting raped in it. That's pretty unpleasant. I recall back when Hotline Miami 2 came out, there was a big ruckus about them taking that same tack, and I can see both sides of the issue. It is crass, it is cruel, it is an extraordinarily unpleasant scene to bear witness to, but it is also done for narratively justified reasons. It's a very unpleasant starting gun to set the tone with, and I think that there were far better, less troubled ways they could have kicked this off, but that's the way they chose to do it, and it is what it is. Really, my biggest problem about that scene is that it comes dangerously close to feeling like it's trying to come across as titillating, which I really was not comfortable with. They needed to make the goblins irredeemable so that their complete and utter genocide was justified, and that Goblin Slayer might be viewed as a sympathetic figure despite his obvious insanity, but man, that was a messy open, and it's worth noting that Doom 2016 didn't need a scene of a woman being raped by demons to get its message across, so there's that, and if it's too hot for Hotline, etc. Even if, in fairness, it's rather classically gothic. Frankly, the thing I'm most disappointed with in regards to the first few episodes is the abundant use of incredibly jarring CG for such profoundly complicated tasks as sitting still and moving a little bit to the left. It always sticks out like a sore thumb and invariably snaps me out of the experience. High Elf Archer's very cute though, so, you know, good stuff on that front. Either way, I can understand why people might have been put off by this one, but I get why they did it, and other than that, the show's been pretty good. I especially like the arc.
Actually, they skipped the Goblin Lord arc, so fuck this adaptation.
Guys, what's going on? You got a show to do.
You murdered my Rascal!
No, I didn't.
You killed my Rascal! No, I haven't!
Whoa! Hey, wahoo! Where'd you come from? The Playboy Mansion? Has anyone seen it? I feel like a lot of people are going to skip this one because of its title, which I completely understand. Rascal does not dream of bunny girl senpai whilst leaning into androids dreaming of electric sheep. Does nonetheless sound just one step beneath my little sister can't be this cute and sew it up. Take it off. Change! My girlfriend failed her high school debut and became a hikikomori, so I decided to coordinate her youth fashion, which, despite all common sense insisting otherwise, turns out is actually a real light novel title that exists.
There and back again. A Hobbit's Tale by Bilbo Baggins. And The Lord of the Rings by Frodo Baggins.
I hope you can trust me when I say that despite its overwhelmingly we grabbed another light novel harem romance comedy to adapt title, and the overt fan service that title suggests, the bunny girl stuff really doesn't play into it very much. I think they just wanted a fan servicey angle with which to pitch the show's otherwise quite high concept narrative, and how better to make Schrodinger's cat more generally appealing than by dressing it up as a Playboy showgirl, I suppose, because by all other measures, this show's closest contemporary is the Monogatari series. It introduces philosophical and scientific concepts. The first arc is based on Schrodinger's cat, and the second on Laplace's demon, for example, explored through the idea that they manifest physically through supernatural social phenomenon called puberty syndrome. If that sounds weirdly high concept for a show called Rascal does a flip kick off of Bunny Girl Senpai's massive ass, you're absolutely right. It's more of a magical realism comedy romance mystery show than it is a generic piece of garbage replete with protagonists that have senses of humor so dry they're more liable to catch fire than Southern California, and I absolutely adore the both of them. The first two arcs have now resolved, which is as far as the manga went, so I'm flying blind now, and if it keeps up this level of competency, it will really be something to watch. I wish I could get more in-depth with this one, but I'm planning on reviewing this one come season's end if it keeps up its level of quality, so you all just have to trust me on this one for now. Wait, this one's by Cloverwork.
Are you fucking kidding me? This one's by Cloverwork?
I'm so close to solving this crime, I can almost taste it.
You know, having not read the manga, which makes a change from, like, every other anime in this video, I can safely say that the first episode of Part 5 was an experience in body horror I was not prepared for. I forgot how much Araki likes nightmare fuel. It was about the time fingers started falling out of Gio's mouth that I remembered that scene in Battle Tendency where Wamu started shooting air out of his neck protuberances that prevented me from being able to sleep for a week. And then the zippers start showing up, although that I was less horrified by because I kept forgetting that Bruno's stand involved them, and so every time I heard the sound effect my initial thought was that someone had just hastily zipped their fly up. We've gone from murder mystery to gangland, and I'm very much enjoying what I've seen so far right from the starting gun, I suppose. That's possibly to be expected from a series as stupidly venerable and as venerably stupid as JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, but nonetheless, I've enjoyed the ride these past few episodes. There is, after all, nothing quite like JoJo's. There's also nothing quite like how Araki draws faces. I know it's a ridiculously common thing to say against Araki's art, but Christ, the man just does not draw faces well, and this child is fucking terrifying.
Ma, there's a weird fucking stray cat outside. It looks like Grandma, the fucking thing.
Now we're following Dio's son, Giorno Giovanna, which is a bit of a stretch for JoJo, but hey, it works, and despite the fucking body horror... Despite the body horror, there were actually a couple of really well done character character moments. For example, right away, our introduction to Giorno, who, despite his name, does, in fact, do delivery, tells us so much about him. He notices a man steal a lady's purse, he steals it back, he hands it to her, then he uses his stand to steal some cash from her as she turns around to leave. He's a thief with a heart of gold, but he's still a thief. He's a liar, he's very confident in his abilities to the point of arrogance, he's got a deft hand, he's not a hero, he's willing to do shitty things for his own personal gain, and it also builds intrigue towards, whilst telling us a little bit about what his stand can do, and it tells us this all without saying a word of exposition. It's great stuff. Really interested in seeing where this one goes for sure, and since it's 39 episodes, it looks like we'll be spending a long time with our Naples out. I just hope they don't keep doing that fucking ear Stop! Objection! Alright, nice. We're done here. Love you, Nick. Never let it be said that I don't make sacrifices for this channel. I watched Sword Art Online Alternative a while back intending to do a preview that never manifested, and my initial reaction upon learning that the first episode of this thing was almost an hour long was one of shock, fear, and heartbreak.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
I should really stop enjoying Alice in Wonderland references as much as I do, considering that if a product is made wherein the protagonist crosses a line of no return, someone will invariably screech.
And down went Alice after it, never once thinking about how she might return.
Like it's a reflex challenge, but here we are. I've long since maintained that Sword Art Online is to the anime industry what Call of Duty is to the video game industry. It's extremely well polished and produced, it gets an absurdly high budget, it dictated half of the industry for a while there. People love to hate it. The first arc is generally pretty alright. Sin on his best girl. Sometimes Snoop Dogg does a voice. It's not just games anymore, as Kirito finds himself transferred into a deep dive virtual reality with no menus, and all the injuries actually hurt now, meaning that the show has finally gone full fantasy bullshit and dropped its video game premise entirely. It's a fresh start for the series, really meaning that maybe Kirito is no longer the strongest gamer after all. We've finally made it far enough in the branching SAO narrative to reach Alicization, also known as Kirito-kun's Fun Time Coma Adventures, or Life on Mars Part 2. Actually, I guess Ashes to Ashes was Life on Mars Part 2. Actually, now that I think about it, Life on Mars was basically an isekai show, wasn't it? In God's name am I talking about Life on Mars? Hey, go watch Life on Mars. It's a better show than Sword Art Online Alicization. Don't look now. Another random salaryman's been killed and has reincarnated into a vaguely European fantasy world. It's no wonder Japan's birth rate's dropping. They're losing people to populate other worlds at such a clip I'd be shocked if the country wasn't deserted this time next year. Tensura's the third in the trifecta of shows based on manga I've been reading this season, and bizarrely, this one seems to have the highest budget by far. It's really slickly animated, although you can tell, at least in this early point in the story, that they're throwing these extremely cool visuals in for variety, since there's only so many ways you can animate a talking blob. I did feel like this scene was out of place, though. You know, between Goblin Slayer, Alicization, and this, I'm feeling pretty... I'm getting some mixed messages from the Joblins. This one, like Bunny Girl Senpai, is a bit more than it appears, whilst the plot isn't anything spectacular. If they keep up this level of quality in their presentation, this is absolutely going to be something to watch, even if that watching is only light. These sound effects are top-notch too, just in general a really bafflingly high level of production value, but I'm not complaining. I mean, yet. I guess, but wow, I mean, look at that old man go. Basically, this one's mostly a sort of Sim City civilization kind of isekai. It's about setting up a country of monsters, and it's got cute Oni girls. I mean, it's not bad. It's not your cut and paste isekai, but it's still very much isekai. At least they don't glorify human trafficking in this. Why is human trafficking always such a major part of most isekai stories? Tensura's nothing groundbreaking, again, but it's a relatively refreshing take, if only because of the absurd production values on ground otherwise so heavily trodden that it's been compressed into granite. It's squeezing blood from a stone that in another life used to be a copiously beaten horse before it died and was reincarnated as a fucking isekai protagonist. Fuck. Man, I bet they had a lot of fun doing the voice recording for this, especially this guy. This guy's living life to the max. Zombieland Saga's, weird. Somehow completely defied my expectations and was at the same time exactly what I thought it would be. It's definitely reliably made me laugh, so that's probably a positive, although given the fact that I laughed at this, I don't think I'm really a good judge of what could be considered comedy anymore. Either way, it's funny in both concept and execution, it's well animated, the comic timing is impeccable, it's got a unique premise, and the first few episodes were paced very smoothly. It's definitely worth keeping tabs on if you can get past the, you know, the premise. Please stop the spine-cracking noises, I'm gonna fucking yacht. What is wrong with this season? Coming to you from the mind behind Fate Zero and Song of Saya, with the composer of Gundam Unicorn and Attack on Titan providing the score, it's fucking Crouching Punch Hidden Judy. This is not a joke.
Denny, if I get too afraid of the puppets, I want to say pineapple, and that means cut and clear the puppets.
How this one's first season slipped by me despite being penned by the Urabucha himself and scored by my favorite composer is beyond me, although I suspect it might have something to do with the fact that it is, as I'm certain you've ascertained given your enormous brain and deductive prowess, not actually an anime at all, but rather glove puppetry. As the story goes, Urabuchi was having a lovely vacation in Taiwan when he saw the local puppet show and thought to himself, holy shit, I is loving these puppets, and subsequently decided to attempt to introduce Taiwan's tradition of glove puppetry to an audience more familiar with anime. So we've got wuxia anime puppets. Gee, alright, this is definitely Urabuchi. I've thrown this on here not because I've seen it, I've only watched the first few episodes of the first season, and if I said I was used to the presentation of it all yet, I'd be telling a terrible lie, but I couldn't not include this. Please allow me to reiterate, Glove Puppet Show, written by Gen Urabuchi, and scored by Hiroyuki motherfucking Sawano. Is it good? Is it bad? I scarcely know, but the writer and composer and the unconventional presentation are enough to ensure I at least give this a cursory look. Perhaps you might also like to. So I understand this is both a bit late into the season to be useful, mostly due to me dramatically underestimating the size of this project, but I was so taken by the quality of the Bunny Girl adaptation that I felt compelled to try and convince at least a few of you about the Trojan horse nature with which it presents itself that I think is actually hurting it in the West given the state of the industry, and also Gridman is shockingly alright. I mean, of course my two favourite shows of the season thus far are produced by the teams responsible for Darling in the fucking Franxx. I guess that means it really was Nishigori Atsushi's fault after all, huh? Anyway, in conclusion, watch Bunny Girl Senpai, be careful with Goblin Slayer, and maybe go and watch a puppet show. Ordinarily this is where I'd fade out to uplift Spice to drive home how blatant a copycat this is, but I couldn't just pass an opportunity to outro on Sawano up, so tread old ground. Play me out, Sawano.